You're an egg stuck to the bottom of a rock crevice in the Pacific Ocean. Your mother laid you here weeks ago, wedged between barnacles and algae where the current can't sweep you away. She didn't stick around to see how things turned out. That's not how this works. You're on your own from the moment she pressed you into this crack and swam off to find her next meal. The water is cold and dark. Above you, waves crash against the rocky shore, but down here, it's quieter. You can't see much through your transparent shell, just shadows moving past and the occasional flash of something silver. You don't know what any of it means yet. You're just waiting, developing slowly inside your protective casing. Then something changes. Your body starts moving on its own, twisting and pushing against the walls that have contained you for so long. The shell feels tight now, like it's shrinking around you. You push harder, and suddenly it splits. Water rushes in, cold and shocking. You wiggle free, tiny and translucent, with barely formed fins that flutter uselessly in the current. You're a larva now, drifting in the open water with thousands of other microscopic creatures. You can't control where you go. The current decides that for you. You're part of the plankton now, just another speck floating in an endless blue void. Survival is simple. Don't get eaten. Unfortunately, everything around you is trying to do exactly that. A jellyfish drifts past, its bell pulsing rhythmically. Its tentacles trail behind like deadly ribbons. You're small enough that it might not even notice you, but that doesn't matter. If you drift too close, you're done. You paddle your tiny fins, trying to steer away, but you're barely strong enough to move against the water. Then you see something else, a school of fish, their mouths open, filtering the water for anything edible. That includes you. They're massive compared to your larval body, each one capable of swallowing hundreds of creatures your size without even noticing. You watch them approach, their silver bodies flashing in the dim light. You can't outrun them, you can't hide. All you can do is hope they miss you. The school passes overhead like a living cloud, their mouths working constantly. A few of your fellow larvae disappear, sucked into those gaping maws. You somehow slip through the gaps, but it's pure luck, nothing more. Days pass, maybe weeks. Time means nothing when you're drifting. You grow slowly, your fins becoming more defined, your body taking on a more fish-like shape. You're still tiny, still vulnerable, but you're getting stronger. You can swim with purpose now, though you're still at the mercy of the current. Then you notice something different. The water is getting shallower. Light filters down from above more easily now. You can see the bottom, rocks covered in algae and seagrass. This is where you need to be. Your instincts tell you to head down, to find a place to settle. You swim toward the rocky bottom, your small body working hard against the current. Other larvae are doing the same thing, all of you drawn to these shallow waters by the same ancient programming. This is where you'll make your stand, where you'll either find a place to call home or become someone else's dinner. The rocks are covered with life. Anemones wave their tentacles like underwater flowers. Crabs scuttle through the crevices, their claws clicking against the stone. Urchins cluster in the shadows, their spines creating deadly forests. And everywhere, fish patrol their territories, chasing away intruders and snapping up anything small enough to swallow. You need to find a crack, a hole, something you can squeeze into and defend. But every suitable spot seems to be taken. A small blenny peers out from one crevice, its eyes tracking your movement. Another hole houses a juvenile rockfish, its mouth already too big for comfort. You keep searching, getting more desperate as the current tries to sweep you away from the safety of the rocks. Then you spot it, a narrow crack between two boulders, just wide enough for your small body. It's not perfect, but it's empty. You dart toward it, squeezing through the opening just as a larger fish swoops down from above. Its jaws snap shut where you were a second ago. You're safe, for now. The crack is cramped and dark, but it's yours. You wedge yourself as far back as you can go, your body trembling from the close call. Outside, you can hear the larger fish circling, probably waiting to see if you'll make another mistake. You won't, not today. This is your new reality. You're no longer drifting with the plankton. You're a juvenile, sarcastic fringehead now, armed with a mouth that's already disproportionately large for your body and an attitude that's about to become legendary. Your fins have developed their characteristic fringes, and your jaw muscles are growing stronger every day. But right now, you're still small, still vulnerable. The crack that seemed like salvation is actually a prison. You can't leave during the day because the larger predators are hunting. You can only venture out at night when the cover of darkness gives you a fighting chance. Your first hunting trip is a disaster. You slip out of your crack after sunset, your eyes adjusting to the dim moonlight filtering through the water. Small crustaceans scuttle across the rocks, and tiny worms poke their heads out of the sand. This is what you need to eat, but catching them is harder than it looks. You lunge at a small amphipod, your mouth opening wide. You miss completely, your momentum carrying you past your target and into the open water. Panic sets in as you realize how exposed you are. You scramble back toward your crack, passing up several easy meals in your rush to get to safety. The second night goes better. You're more patient this time, waiting for the right moment before striking. A small misfed shrimp drifts too close to your hating spot, and you snap it up with a quick dart of your head. It's not much, but it's your first successful hunt. The taste of fresh prey triggers something primal in your brain. This is what you were built for. Over the following weeks, you grow bolder. Your hunting improves with practice. You learn to read the movements of your prey, to anticipate where they'll be instead of where they are. Your mouth is getting bigger too, allowing you to tackle larger prey. Small worms, tiny crabs, juvenile fish, everything becomes potential food. But growth comes with problems. Your crack is getting tight. What once felt like a secure fortress now feels like a tomb. You can barely turn around inside it, and squeezing in and out is becoming a struggle. You need a bigger home, but finding one means leaving the safety of your current hideout. You start scouting during your nighttime hunts, looking for a suitable upgrade. Most of the good spots are occupied by other fish, many of them bigger than you. A few holes look promising, but they're too close to the territories of aggressive neighbors. You need something defensible, something you can hold against challengers. Then you find it, a beer bottle, half buried in the sand between two large rocks. It's not natural, but it's perfect. The opening is just the right size, and the interior is spacious enough for you to grow into. Best of all, it's currently empty. You approach cautiously, checking for any signs of previous occupants. The bottle is clean inside, no smell of other fish. You swim around it once and twice, making sure there are no hidden dangers. Then you make your move, darting inside and settling into your new home. The bottle is a massive upgrade. You can turn around easily, and there's room to grow. The thick glass walls provide excellent protection, and the narrow neck creates a natural choke point that you can defend. For the first time since leaving your egg, you feel truly secure. Your confidence grows with your new accommodations. You start venturing out during the day, though never far from the bottle's entrance. Small fish give you a wide berth now, recognizing the threat posed by your increasingly impressive mouth. You're not the biggest predator on the reef, but you're no longer prey either. Then the first challenger arrives. It's another juvenile fringehead, slightly smaller than you, but with the same aggressive temperament. It hovers outside your bottle, fins flared, mouth opening and closing, in what you'll later recognize as a threat display. Right now, though, you just know it wants what's yours. You don't hesitate. You shoot out of the bottle like a missile, your mouth gaping wide in your own threat display. The challenger doesn't back down. Instead, it mirrors your posture, and suddenly you're face to face, mouths locked together in your first real fight. It's not pretty. You're both inexperienced, all aggression and no technique. You push against each other, trying to establish dominance through sheer force. Your opponent is determined, but you have the advantage of defending your territory. After several minutes of grappling, it finally breaks away and retreats. You've won your first territorial dispute, but it won't be your last. Word spreads quickly in the reef community. There's a new player with a prime piece of real estate. Over the next few days, several other fish test your resolve. Most are easily discouraged by your threat displays, but a few require more persuasive arguments. Each fight teaches you something new. You learn to use your environment, backing into your bottle's entrance so attackers can only approach from one direction. You discover that sometimes a good bluff is better than an actual fight. A properly timed threat display can send even larger fish swimming away. Most importantly, you learn that reputation matters. The more fights you win, the fewer challenges you face. Your hunting becomes more sophisticated too. You're no longer content to wait for prey to wander within striking distance. You start actively patrolling your territory, chasing down anything edible that ventures too close. Small gobies become regular meals, along with juvenile rockfish and the occasional unwary crab. But the reef is changing around you. New faces appear regularly as young fish settle from the plankton, while others disappear, eaten, driven away, or simply unable to compete. The constant turnover keeps you alert. Every day brings new threats and new opportunities. One morning, you notice something different about the water. It's warmer than usual, and there's a strange taste to it. Particles drift past your bottle that you don't recognize, tiny flakes of something organic. You investigate cautiously, following the trail of debris to its source. What you find changes everything. A large sea star has died and is slowly decomposing on the sandy bottom. The smell attracts scavengers from across the reef. Crabs, worms, small fish, all converging on the unexpected feast. This is an opportunity, but it's also dangerous. Feeding frenzies bring out the worst in reef residents. You approach carefully, staying close to the rocks where you can take cover if needed. The competition is fierce. Larger fish dominate the best feeding spots, while smaller scavengers dart in and out, grabbing what they can. You're somewhere in the middle, big enough to compete, but not large enough to intimidate the major players. A hermit crab scuttles past, dragging a choice morsel. You strike without thinking, your jaws clamping down on both crab and food. The crab fights back, its claws pinching at your face, but you hold on. This is the biggest meal you've had since settling on the reef, and you're not giving it up. The feeding continues for hours, drawing fish from territories all across the reef. You manage to secure several more substantial meals, but the real prize is the information you gather. You're learning who the major players are, which fish to avoid, and which ones you might be able to challenge. The reef's social hierarchy is becoming clearer with each interaction. As the feast winds down and the scavengers disperse, you retreat to your bottle with a full belly and a better understanding of your place in the ecosystem. You're no longer just trying to survive. You're starting to thrive. Your territory is secure, your hunting skills are improving, and your reputation is growing. But this is just the beginning. You're still young, still growing, still learning the complex rules that govern life on the reef. Greater challenges await, along with opportunities you can't even imagine yet. The sarcastic fringehead you're becoming will be nothing like the helpless larva you once were. The reef never sleeps, and neither do the politics that govern it. You've been in your bottle for several months now, and you're starting to understand that every interaction matters. A small Ross swims too close to your territory, testing your boundaries. You don't even need to leave your bottle. A quick flash of your opened mouth sends it scrambling away. Word travels fast in these waters. Mess with the fringehead in the bottle, and you'll regret it. Your body is changing too. What started as a modest mouth is becoming something truly impressive. Your jaw muscles are thickening, your gape widening with each passing week. You catch your reflection in the bottle's curved glass sometimes and barely recognize yourself. The timid larva is gone, replaced by something with serious attitude and the hardware to back it up. But size brings new problems. Your bottle, once spacious, is starting to feel cramped again. You can still fit, but barely. When you fully extend your fins, they brush against the glass walls. You're facing the same dilemma as before: stay in a space that's becoming too small, or risk everything to find something better. The decision is made for you one morning when a shadow passes over your bottle. You look up to see a massive octopus settling onto the rocks above you, its tentacles probing every crack and crevice. One arm slides down toward your bottle's opening, and you realize you're trapped. The octopus hasn't noticed you yet, but it's only a matter of time. You have two choices: hide deeper in the bottle and hope it passes, or make a break for it while you still can. Your instincts scream at you to run, but where? The octopus has positioned itself perfectly to block most escape routes. You're going to have to be smart about this. You wait, watching the tentacle explore the rocks around your home. It's methodical, patient, checking every possible hiding spot. When it finally reaches your bottle, you're ready. The moment the tip of the tentacle slides inside, you clamp down on it with everything you've got. The reaction is immediate and violent. The octopus jerks back, trying to pull its arm free, but you hold on with grim determination. Your jaw muscles strain against the powerful suction cups, but you don't let go. The octopus thrashes, sending clouds of sand swirling through the water, but you've made your point. This territory has teeth. After what feels like an eternity, the octopus gives up and retreats, nursing its wounded tentacle. You release your grip and watch it disappear into deeper water. You've won, but the victory feels hollow. The encounter has shown you just how vulnerable you are in your current location. It's time to move up in the world. Your search for a new home becomes the focus of your daily routine. You scout during dawn and dusk when the lighting gives you an advantage, mapping out potential upgrades while avoiding the territories of larger, more established residents. The reef is like a real estate market where the currency is violence and the leases are written in blood. Most of the prime locations are occupied by fish bigger than you. A large lingcod has claimed a cave system that would be perfect, but challenging it would be suicide. A moray eel has taken up residence in a crack that offers excellent protection, but morays don't negotiate. You need to find something that's either empty or defended by someone you can actually beat. Then you spot it, a section of broken concrete, probably part of an old pier that fell into the water years ago. The structure has created a maze of holes and passages, each one a potential home. Better yet, most of them appear to be unoccupied. This is your chance to upgrade to premium real estate. You approach cautiously, checking each opening for signs of current residents. Most are too small or too exposed, but one catches your attention. It's larger than your bottle, with multiple entrances and good sight lines for spotting approaching threats. The concrete walls are thick enough to provide excellent protection, and the location offers easy access to prime hunting grounds. There's just one problem. It's not empty. A small cabazon has taken up residence, and while it's not much bigger than you, it's built like a tank. Cabazons are tough, aggressive, and notoriously difficult to dislodge once they've settled somewhere. This isn't going to be easy. You spend several days observing your potential rival, learning its patterns and habits. It's lazy, spending most of its time wedged deep in the hole, only emerging to grab prey that ventures too close. This works in your favor. A passive defender is easier to deal with than an active aggressor. Your first approach is diplomatic. You hover outside the entrance, displaying your colors and posture in what you hope is a non-threatening manner. Maybe you can share the space or convince the cabazon to relocate voluntarily. The response is immediate and unambiguous. The cabazon charges out of the hole with its mouth gaping, forcing you to retreat quickly. Diplomacy has failed. It's time for more direct negotiations. You return the next morning with a different strategy. Instead of approaching the main entrance, you circle around to one of the smaller openings. The concrete structure is more complex than you initially realized, with passages connecting multiple chambers. If you can get inside and establish a foothold, you might be able to force the cabazon out through persistence rather than brute force. The side entrance is barely large enough for your body, but you manage to squeeze through. The interior is dark and confusing, a maze of concrete corridors and chambers. You can hear the cabazon somewhere ahead, its breathing creating small currents in the water. You follow the sound, moving carefully to avoid detection. The main chamber is impressive, spacious, well protected, with excellent visibility through multiple openings. The cabazon is positioned near the primary entrance, exactly where you expected. It hasn't noticed your arrival yet, giving you the element of surprise. You don't attack immediately. Instead, you settle into one of the smaller chambers and wait. Your plan is simple. Make yourself a permanent fixture, an immovable object that the cabazon will eventually have to acknowledge. It's a war of attrition, and you're betting that your persistence will outlast its patience. The standoff begins. The cabazon discovers your presence within hours, and its reaction is predictably hostile. It charges into your chamber, mouth agape, trying to drive you out. But the space is too small for effective combat, and you're able to hold your ground. After several minutes of futile aggression, it retreats to the main chamber, clearly frustrated. This pattern repeats over the following days. The cabazon makes periodic attempts to evict you, but the confined spaces work in your favor. You're more maneuverable in tight quarters, and your growing mouth gives you an edge in close quarters combat. Each failed attempt to remove you seems to drain more of the cabazon's resolve. The breakthrough comes on the fourth day. You've been gradually expanding your territory within the structure, claiming additional chambers and passages. The cabazon has been responding to each incursion, but its reactions are getting slower, less aggressive. It's tired of fighting, tired of the constant stress of defending its home against an intruder who won't give up. When you make your move into the main chamber, the cabazon's resistance crumbles. It makes one half-hearted attempt to drive you back, but when you stand your ground and display your full gape, it simply turns and swims away. The concrete fortress is yours. Your new home is everything you hoped for and more. The multiple chambers give you options: a main living area, smaller spaces for storage or retreat, and several escape routes in case of emergency. The thick walls provide excellent protection from larger predators, while the various openings give you perfect visibility for hunting and territorial defense. The location is prime real estate in every sense. You're positioned at the intersection of several travel routes used by small fish, making hunting almost effortless. The rocky areas nearby are rich with invertebrates, providing a steady supply of crabs, worms, and other prey. Best of all, the complex structure deters casual challengers. Anyone wanting to take your territory will have to work for it. Your first week in the new digs is remarkably peaceful. A few fish test your defenses, but most are easily discouraged by your threat displays. Your reputation seems to have preceded you. The Fringehead who drove out a cabazon is not someone to mess with lightly. The respect feels good, even if it's based primarily on fear, but peace never lasts long on the reef. Your success has attracted attention, and not all of it is welcome. Other fish are taking note of your prime location and impressive defenses. Some are content to give you a wide berth, but others see your territory as a challenge to be conquered. The first serious challenger arrives without warning. You're hunting near the edge of your territory when movement catches your eye. Another Fringehead is approaching, and this one is noticeably larger than any you've encountered before. Its scarred fins and confident posture mark it as an experienced fighter, someone who's won more battles than they've lost. The newcomer doesn't bother with preliminaries. It swims straight toward your fortress, its message clear. This is a takeover attempt, not a territorial dispute. You rush back to your home, arriving just as the intruder begins exploring the outer chambers. This is exactly the scenario you were hoping to avoid. Your first impulse is to retreat to the deepest chamber and hope the challenger loses interest, but that's not really an option. If you show weakness now, word will spread, and every ambitious fish on the reef will come looking for an easy conquest. You have to make a stand, even if the odds aren't in your favor. The confrontation begins in one of the outer passages, a narrow corridor that limits both of your movements. Your challenger is bigger and stronger, but the confined space neutralizes some of those advantages. When you lock jaws in the traditional threat display, you can feel the difference in power. This fish has muscles you're still developing. But size isn't everything in these contests. Experience matters, technique matters, and most importantly, motivation matters. This is your home, your territory, your future. The challenger might be stronger, but you're fighting for something more valuable than another conquest. You're fighting for your place in the world. The battle moves through multiple chambers as you give ground strategically, leading your opponent deeper into the maze-like structure. Each room offers different tactical advantages, and you use your intimate knowledge of the terrain to maximum effect. In the narrow passages, you can neutralize the size advantage. In the larger chambers, you have room to maneuver. The turning point comes when your challenger makes a critical error. It follows you into one of the smaller side chambers, a space barely large enough for one Fringehead, let alone two. In the cramped confines, size becomes a liability rather than an asset. Your opponent struggles to position itself effectively, while your smaller frame allows for greater mobility. You press your advantage ruthlessly, using the tight quarters to prevent your challenger from bringing its full strength to bear. The confined space amplifies every collision, every impact reverberating through the concrete walls. Your opponent grows increasingly frustrated as its superior size fails to translate into tactical advantage. After nearly an hour of exhausting combat, your challenger finally breaks off the engagement. It retreats through the passages, pausing at the main entrance for one final threat display before disappearing into the blue. You've held your territory, but just barely. The victory feels hollow. You know you got lucky, and luck isn't something you can count on indefinitely. The encounter serves as a wake-up call. You're growing, but not fast enough to keep pace with the escalating challenges you're facing. Bigger fish are taking notice of your success, and sooner or later, you're going to face an opponent who won't be discouraged by tight spaces and home field advantage. You need to get stronger, faster. Your hunting becomes more aggressive, targeting larger prey that will fuel rapid growth. Crab that you once avoided become regular meals. Small fish that previously seemed too risky to attack find themselves on your menu. You're pushing the boundaries of what's safe, but playing it safe isn't an option anymore. The increased caloric intake shows results quickly. Your body lengthens, your fins broaden, and most importantly, your mouth continues its impressive expansion. What was once merely large becomes truly formidable. You practice your threat displays in the reflection of your concrete walls, perfecting the intimidating gape that's becoming your signature weapon. Your growing size brings new hunting opportunities. Fish that once ignored you now give your territory a respectful distance. Crabs that previously stood their ground flee at your approach. You're transitioning from small predator to medium predator, and the shift in how other creatures react to you is both gratifying and sobering. But growth also brings new problems. Your metabolism has increased dramatically, requiring constant hunting to maintain your energy levels. The territory that once seemed so spacious is starting to feel limiting. You need more hunting grounds to support your expanding appetite. The concrete fortress remains perfect for defense, but it's becoming inadequate as a base of operations. You begin expanding your territorial claims, establishing hunting grounds beyond your immediate home area. This brings you into conflict with neighbors who previously coexisted peacefully with your smaller presence. What were once invisible boundaries become contested zones as your growing needs bump up against established territories. A particularly aggressive encounter occurs when you venture into an area traditionally controlled by a small school of rockfish. They've grown complacent, assuming their numbers provide adequate protection against solitary predators. They're about to learn that assumption can be fatal. Your attack is swift and decisive. You target the smallest member of the school, the one lagging slightly behind the others. Your strike catches it completely off guard. One moment, it's swimming with its companions. The next, it's caught in your powerful jaws. The other rockfish scatter in panic, their coordinated school behavior dissolving into chaos. The meal is substantial, the largest single prey item you've consumed since settling on the reef. But more important than the calories is the psychological impact. Word of your successful attack on a school spreads quickly through the reef's communication networks. You're no longer seen as just another territorial fish. You're becoming recognized as a serious predator. This reputation brings both benefits and risks. Smaller fish give you more space, making hunting easier and reducing the number of territorial challenges you face. But it also attracts the attention of larger predators who see you as either a threat to be eliminated or a rival to be tested. You're climbing the reef's hierarchy, but each step up brings bigger dangers. The next phase of your development is about to begin, and with it will come challenges that will test everything you've learned about survival, territory, and the complex social dynamics that govern life in these waters. Your journey from helpless larva to respected predator is far from over. The reputation you've built starts attracting more than just casual challengers. One afternoon, While you're patrolling the outer edges of your territory, you notice something different about the water. It's too quiet. The usual background noise of small fish chattering and crabs clicking has gone silent. That's never a good sign. You retreat toward your fortress, but you're not fast enough. A shadow passes overhead, and you look up to see something that makes your blood run cold. It's a lingcod, massive and scarred, with dead eyes that have seen too many battles. This isn't some opportunistic challenger looking for an easy score. This is an apex predator, and it's heading straight for your home. You dive into your concrete maze just as the lingcod reaches the main entrance. The structure that seemed so spacious moments ago suddenly feels cramped as the predator's bulk fills the opening. It can't fit all the way inside, but it doesn't need to. Those jaws could crush you without effort, and one of its fins is larger than your entire body. The lingcod probes the entrance with its massive head, testing the dimensions. You press yourself against the back wall of the deepest chamber, hoping the concrete will hold. The predator's breathing creates powerful currents that rock you back and forth like a leaf in a storm. This is what real fear feels like. But the lingcod grows impatient. It's too large to effectively hunt in the confined spaces, and after several minutes of futile attempts to reach you, it gives up and moves on. You wait another hour before emerging, just to be sure it's actually gone. When you finally venture out, your fins are still trembling from the encounter. That night changes everything. You realize that all your territorial victories, all your successful hunts, all your growing reputation mean nothing if a real predator decides you're worth the effort. The concrete fortress that seemed so secure is just another hole in the rocks to something that size. You need to evolve your strategy. You start paying more attention to the reef's early warning system. Small fish don't just scatter randomly. They flee in patterns that reveal what's chasing them. Crabs don't hide without reason. Even the algae seems to sense when something dangerous is prowling nearby. You learn to read these signs, to anticipate threats before they materialize at your doorstep. Your hunting patterns change too. Instead of bold, aggressive strikes in open water, you become more methodical, more careful. You use the terrain to your advantage, setting up ambushes near rocky overhangs where larger predators can't follow. It's less spectacular than your previous hunting style, but it's infinitely safer. The caution pays off when another major predator enters your area. This time, it's a moray eel, sliding through the rocks like a living nightmare. But you see it coming from a distance, reading the panic in the small fish that flee its approach. By the time it reaches your territory, you're already deep in your fortress, invisible and untouchable. Your patience during these encounters doesn't go unnoticed by the reef community. Other fish start to recognize that you're not just another aggressive predator. You're smart. You pick your battles carefully, avoid unnecessary risks, and know when to retreat. That kind of intelligence is rare in these waters, and it earns you a different kind of respect. But intelligence alone won't keep you alive forever. You're still growing, still getting stronger, but the growth is slowing. You're approaching your adult size, and with it comes the realization that you'll never be the biggest fish on the reef. You'll have to rely on other advantages: speed, cunning, and the strategic use of your territory. Your mouth has reached truly impressive proportions now. When you open it fully, it's large enough to engulf fish half your size. The threat display that once seemed almost comical is now genuinely intimidating. Even fish that outweigh you think twice before challenging something with that kind of gape. You start using your mouth as a psychological weapon, timing your threat displays for maximum impact. A quick flash of your cavernous maw, is often enough to end a territorial dispute before it begins. Fish that might otherwise test your boundaries take one look at those jaws and decide they have business elsewhere. The strategy works so well that you begin expanding your influence beyond your immediate territory. You don't claim new areas outright. That would invite challenges you can't win. Instead, you establish a network of hunting routes and safe zones, places where your presence is known and respected. It's a more sophisticated approach than simple territorial control, and it suits your growing intelligence. But sophistication brings its own problems. Other fish start to notice your expanding influence, and some don't appreciate the competition. A group of territorial damselfishes begins coordinating their efforts to limit your movement through their areas. They can't challenge you directly, but they can make your life difficult through constant harassment. The damselfishes are small but numerous, and they use their numbers effectively. Whenever you try to hunt in their neighborhood, they swarm around you, creating chaos and alerting potential prey to your presence. They don't attack directly, they're not stupid, but they make it impossible for you to hunt effectively. You try ignoring them at first, hoping they'll lose interest, but the harassment continues day after day, cutting into your hunting efficiency and forcing you to work harder for each meal. Something has to be done, but a direct assault on the school would be suicide. You need a more subtle approach. Your solution comes from observing their behavior patterns. The damselfishes are highly territorial, but their territories are small and rigidly defined. They're also fiercely competitive with each other, constantly squabbling over boundaries and resources. All you need to do is exploit those natural tensions. You start hunting along the borders between damselfish territories, creating disturbances that trigger their territorial instincts. When one group responds to your presence, they inevitably cross into a neighbor's territory, sparking conflicts that have nothing to do with you. Soon the damselfishes are too busy fighting each other to worry about your activities. The tactic works brilliantly. Within a week, the coordinated harassment has collapsed into a series of individual territorial disputes. The damselfishes are still aggressive, but they're no longer working together. You can hunt through their areas with minimal interference, and their constant bickering actually helps mask your presence from potential prey. Your success against the damselfishes establishes you as more than just a physical threat. You're developing a reputation for cunning that makes other fish wary of challenging you even when they have apparent advantages. Intelligence is becoming your signature weapon, as distinctive as your impressive mouth. This reputation attracts the attention of an unexpected ally. A small cleaner fish approaches your territory one morning, displaying the distinctive markings and behavior that signal its profession. Cleaners are neutral parties on the reef, providing services to both predators and prey. The fact that one is seeking you out suggests your status has risen significantly. The cleaner's offer is simple: regular cleaning services in exchange for protection and access to your territory. It's a mutually beneficial arrangement that speaks to your growing influence. Having a cleaner associate with you sends a message to the entire reef community. You're established, you're permanent, and you're important enough to warrant professional services. You accept the arrangement, though not without some amusement. The tiny fish that begins picking parasites from your fins is smaller than some of the prey you consumed as a juvenile. But size isn't everything on the reef. This little cleaner has carved out a successful niche through specialization and neutrality. There's a lesson in that. The cleaner brings more than just hygiene services. It also brings information. Cleaners move freely throughout the reef, serving clients across all territorial boundaries. They hear things, see things, and remember things. Your cleaner becomes an invaluable source of intelligence about reef politics, predator movements, and territorial changes. Through your cleaner, you learn that your reputation has spread far beyond your immediate area. Fish in distant parts of the reef know about the fringehead with the giant mouth and the strategic mind. Some view you with respect, others with suspicion, but none dismiss you as insignificant. You've achieved something remarkable for a fish your size. You've become a player in reef politics. But success brings new pressures. Other fish start testing you, not just for your territory, but for your reputation. Young challengers see defeating you as a way to establish their own credentials. Established fish worry about your growing influence and consider preemptive strikes. You're caught in the classic dilemma of success. The higher you climb, the bigger the target on your back. The most serious challenge comes from an unexpected source. Another fringehead enters your area, but this one is different from the usual territorial competitors. It's older, more experienced, and carries itself with the confidence of a fish that's never lost a significant battle. This isn't some young upstart looking to make a name. This is an established power making a calculated move. The challenger doesn't rush toward your territory like the others. Instead, it settles just outside your boundaries and begins a campaign of psychological warfare. It displays constantly, showing off its own impressive gape and scarred fins. It hunts aggressively in the border areas, making kills that are clearly visible from your fortress. It's trying to establish dominance through reputation before the actual confrontation begins. You recognize the strategy because you've used similar tactics yourself. This is an intelligent opponent, one that understands the importance of winning the mental battle before the physical one begins. The constant displays and demonstrations are designed to erode your confidence and establish the challenger's superiority in the minds of watching fish. The campaign continues for days, with the challenger gradually increasing the pressure. It moves closer to your boundaries, makes more aggressive displays, and begins intercepting prey that would normally enter your territory. Each action is calculated to provoke a response while maintaining plausible deniability. It's not technically invading your territory, yet your cleaner brings disturbing news from its rounds. The challenger's reputation is formidable. It's older than you, more experienced, and has a track record of successful territorial conquests. Other fish are already discussing the probable outcome of your confrontation, and the consensus isn't encouraging. Most expect you to lose. The psychological pressure is intense. Every moment you delay responding to the challenger's provocations, you lose credibility. But rushing into a confrontation with a superior opponent would be suicide. You need to find a way to turn your disadvantages into advantages, to fight on terms that favor your strengths over the challenger's. Your solution comes from studying the challenger's behavior patterns. Like most successful territorial fish, it's developed habits and preferences that have served it well in the past. It favors direct confrontations in open water, where its size and experience provide maximum advantage. It expects opponents to meet its challenges head-on, matching aggression with aggression. You decide to disappoint those expectations. Instead of meeting the challenger in open water, you begin modifying your territory's defenses. Yes, you rearrange rocks, clear sight lines, and create ambush points that will favor your mobility over the challenger's power. If you have to fight, it will be on your terms, in your carefully prepared battlefield. The challenger eventually grows tired of the waiting game. It crosses into your territory with obvious intent, swimming directly toward your fortress with fins flared and mouth agape. This is the moment of truth. Everything you've learned about survival, territory, and reef politics is about to be tested against an opponent that outclasses you in almost every measurable way. You don't meet the challenge where the challenger expects. Instead of emerging from your fortress for a traditional confrontation, you let it approach while you position yourself in one of your prepared ambush points. The challenger enters your territory expecting a direct confrontation and finds empty water instead. The confusion works in your favor. The challenger pauses, scanning for threats, trying to understand why you haven't responded to its obvious provocation. That moment of uncertainty is all you need. You strike from concealment, not aiming for a killing blow, but for psychological impact. Your attack catches the challenger completely off guard, proving that its experience and reputation can't protect it from the unexpected. The battle that follows is unlike any you've fought before. Your opponent is stronger, more experienced, and has a longer reach. But you're fighting in your own, carefully prepared territory, using terrain features and ambush points that you've studied for months. Every rock, every crevice, every current pattern works in your favor. The challenger adapts quickly, recognizing that this won't be the straightforward conquest it expected. But adaptation takes time, and time is something you're not willing to give. You press your advantage ruthlessly, using hit-and-run tactics that prevent your opponent from bringing its full strength to bear. The confrontation moves through multiple phases as both of you test different strategies and tactics. Your challenger tries to force a direct confrontation in open water, but you consistently refuse, leading it through the maze-like terrain you've prepared. Each phase of the battle teaches you something new about your opponent's capabilities and limitations. The turning point comes when your challenger makes a critical error in judgment. Frustrated by your refusal to fight on its terms, it follows you into one of the most complex sections of your territory, an area where broken rocks create a three-dimensional maze of passages and chambers. In the confined space, size becomes a liability rather than an asset. You exploit the terrain ruthlessly, using your superior knowledge of the area to maintain the initiative. Your challenger struggles to navigate the tight spaces, constantly having to reposition itself while you strike from unexpected angles. The battle becomes a masterclass in using environmental advantages to overcome superior opponents. After nearly 2 hours of exhausting combat, your challenger finally acknowledges defeat. It retreats from your territory with visible wounds and damaged pride, but you let it go. Killing isn't necessary. Humiliation is far more effective. The challenger's reputation is shattered, while yours is enhanced beyond anything you could have achieved through a simple territorial victory. Word of your victory spreads quickly through the reef's communication networks. You've done something remarkable, defeated a superior opponent through intelligence, preparation, and tactical superiority. The victory establishes you as more than just another territorial fish. You're now recognized as a strategic thinker, a fish that can win battles through cunning rather than just brute force. The psychological impact of the victory extends far beyond your immediate area. Potential challengers reconsider their plans, knowing that facing you means more than just a test of strength. Your territory becomes more secure, not because you've gotten bigger or stronger, but because you've proven that size and experience aren't everything. Your cleaner brings news that your reputation has reached the furthest corners of the reef. Fish that have never seen you know about the Fringehead that defeated a superior opponent through strategic thinking. Some view you with respect, others with wariness, but all acknowledge that you've achieved something extraordinary. But victory brings its own challenges. Success has made you a target for fish seeking to establish their own reputations. Your territory has become a proving ground where ambitious predators come to test themselves against the famous strategic fighter. Each victory adds to your legend, but also increases the pressure to maintain your reputation. You adapt by becoming more selective about your battles. Not every challenge requires a response, and not every territorial intrusion demands immediate retaliation. You learn to distinguish between serious threats and opportunistic testing, responding with appropriate levels of force. Sometimes a simple threat display is enough. Other times, more decisive action is required. Your growing wisdom about when to fight and when to avoid conflict serves you well as the reef's political landscape continues to evolve. New fish arrive regularly, establishing territories and challenging existing hierarchies. Old residents die or move on, leaving power vacuums that create opportunities for ambitious newcomers. Through it all, you maintain your position through a combination of strategic thinking, tactical preparation, and carefully managed aggression. The reef is changing around you, but you're changing too. The desperate juvenile that once hid in a cramped bottle is gone, replaced by a mature predator with intelligence, experience, and hard-won wisdom. Your mouth has reached its full impressive size, but more importantly, your mind has developed the sophistication needed to use that weapon effectively. You're no longer just surviving on the reef. You're thriving, influencing the complex social dynamics that govern life in these waters. But your story is far from over. Greater challenges await, along with opportunities and experiences that will test everything you've learned about life, territory, and the art of strategic survival. Your territory has become more than just a home. It's a statement. Fish travel from distant parts of the reef just to see the fortress that houses the legendary Fringehead. Some come out of curiosity, others to test their courage by swimming near your boundaries. A few even attempt foolish challenges, thinking they can be the one to finally defeat you. They learn quickly that legends exist for a reason, but fame is a double-edged sword. Your success has attracted the attention of something you never expected, other sarcastic fringeheads. They arrive one by one, drawn by stories of your strategic victories and prime territory. These aren't casual challengers or different species testing their luck. These are your own kind, and they understand exactly what you've accomplished. The first to arrive is a female, slightly smaller than you, but carrying herself with unmistakable confidence. She doesn't approach your territory directly. Instead, she settles in a rocky area just beyond your influence, establishing her own small domain. Her presence changes everything. This isn't about territory anymore. This is about something far more primal. You find yourself watching her from a distance, studying her movements and behaviors. She's skilled, efficiently hunting small prey and defending her modest territory with practiced ease. When other fish test her boundaries, she responds with the same calculated aggression that made your own reputation. There's an intelligence in her actions that matches your own. Your cleaner brings interesting news during its regular visits. The female has been asking about you, subtle inquiries disguised as casual conversation. She wants to know about your hunting patterns, your territorial boundaries, your history of victories. The information gathering is so sophisticated that it takes your cleaner several days to realize what's happening. This development creates a problem you've never faced before. Every territorial dispute in your past has been about dominance, resources, or simple survival. This situation involves considerations you don't fully understand. Your instincts are pulling you in directions that conflict with your carefully developed strategic thinking. You decide to approach the situation like any other territorial challenge, through careful observation and strategic planning. You begin studying the female's behavior patterns, looking for weaknesses or advantages you can exploit. But the more you observe, the more you realize this isn't a problem that can be solved through conventional tactics. The female is clearly aware of your surveillance. She adjusts her routines subtly, making sure her most impressive hunting displays occur when you're watching. She chooses prey that showcases her speed and precision, demonstrating capabilities that match or exceed your own. The message is clear. She's not some random fish seeking an easy conquest. Other reef residents take notice of the developing situation. Fish that normally avoid your area begin lingering near the boundaries between your territories, sensing that something significant is about to happen. Even the larger predators seem more alert, as if they understand that the reef's power structure might be about to shift. Your cleaner reports increasing tension among the smaller fish. They're nervous about the implications of two strategic fringeheads operating in the same area. Some are already relocating to avoid getting caught in whatever conflict might develop. The reef's social dynamics are shifting in response to possibilities that haven't even materialized yet. Days pass in this strange standoff. Neither of you makes direct contact, but both are clearly aware of the other's presence. You find yourself spending more time on territorial maintenance, ensuring your defenses are perfect and your boundaries are clearly marked. She does the same, turning her modest territory into an impressive fortress that rivals your own construction. The psychological pressure is unlike anything you've experienced. Previous challenges were straightforward: fight, win, and move on. This situation requires considerations beyond simple dominance. Every action carries implications you're still learning to understand. The strategic thinking that served you so well in territorial disputes seems inadequate for this new type of interaction. Your hunting patterns change as you become increasingly aware of being observed. You find yourself selecting prey that demonstrates your capabilities, choosing targets that showcase your intelligence and skill. It's a strange reversal. Instead of hunting for sustenance, you're hunting for reputation. The female is doing the same, turning routine feeding into elaborate displays of competence. The breakthrough comes unexpectedly. While patrolling your territory's outer boundaries, you encounter a situation that demands immediate action. A juvenile rockfish has become trapped in a crevice, struggling frantically as a moray eel approaches from the depths. The rockfish is too small to be worth your attention normally, but something about its desperate situation triggers a response. You strike without thinking, intercepting the moray's approach with a perfectly timed threat display. Your massive gape opens fully, and the eel pauses, reconsidering its easy meal. For a moment, predator faces predator in a standoff that could go either way. Then the moray decides the rockfish isn't worth the risk and retreats into deeper water. The juvenile fish escapes, darting away to safety without acknowledging your intervention. But someone else witnessed the encounter. The female has been watching from her territory, and her reaction is immediate and unmistakable. She approaches your boundary for the first time, swimming with deliberate purpose. You meet her at the invisible line that separates your territories, both of you displaying your full impressive gapes in what should be a threatening confrontation. But something is different about this interaction. The displays aren't aggressive, they're evaluative. You're not trying to intimidate each other. You're comparing capabilities. The ritualized interaction continues for several minutes, both of you showcasing the features that make sarcastic fringeheads legendary. Your mouths open to their full impressive dimensions, revealing the bright colors and patterns that serve as identity markers. It's like looking in a mirror. seeing your own species' distinctive characteristics reflected back at you. When the displays end, neither of you retreats. Instead, you swim parallel to each other along the territorial boundary, maintaining perfect distance while observing every detail of movement and behavior. It's a complex dance of evaluation and assessment, each of you gathering information about the other's capabilities and intentions. The female breaks the pattern first, swimming directly toward your territory with what should be an aggressive approach. But her posture is wrong for an attack. Fins relaxed, movements fluid rather than aggressive. When you don't respond with immediate hostility, she continues forward, entering your domain for the first time. Your reaction surprises even yourself. Instead of defending your territory with the aggressive displays that have become your signature, you find yourself swimming alongside her, showing her the fortress you've built. The concrete structure that has been your greatest achievement becomes something to share rather than defend. She examines your construction with obvious appreciation, understanding immediately the strategic advantages of your chosen location. Her movements through the complex passages demonstrate her own tactical intelligence, as she identifies the defensive positions and escape routes you've carefully prepared. This is recognition from an equal, not submission from a defeated challenger. The tour of your territory becomes an extended conversation conducted entirely through movement and positioning. You show her your hunting grounds, and she demonstrates techniques you hadn't considered. She reveals weak points in your defenses that you hadn't noticed, while acknowledging the brilliance of your overall strategic design. Hours pass in this strange interaction, both of you learning from and teaching the other. It's unlike any encounter you've had with another fish. Previous interactions were about dominance, territory, or survival. This is about understanding, sharing knowledge between equals who recognize each other's capabilities. When the female finally leaves your territory, the dynamic between you has fundamentally changed. She's no longer a potential challenger or territorial threat. She's become something you didn't know existed, a partner in the complex game of reef survival. The implications of this development will reshape everything you thought you understood about your place in these waters. Your cleaner brings news that the reef community is buzzing with speculation about your unusual interaction. Fish that witnessed the extended peaceful encounter are struggling to understand what they saw. Territorial fish simply don't behave the way you and the female have been acting. The established rules of reef politics don't account for cooperation between potential rivals. Some of the older, more experienced fish seem less surprised by these developments. Your cleaner reports conversations suggesting that partnerships between strategic fringeheads are rare but not unprecedented. Apparently, your species has capabilities for cooperation that extend beyond simple territorial defense. You're discovering aspects of your own nature that you never knew existed. The partnership, if that's what this is becoming, offers advantages you hadn't considered. Two strategic minds working together can accomplish things that neither could achieve alone. Your combined territories create a larger sphere of influence, while your shared intelligence makes both domains more secure. The reef's power structure is shifting to accommodate this new dynamic, but cooperation also brings new challenges. Coordinating actions with another fish requires communication skills you're still developing. Reading the female's intentions and signaling your own plans becomes a constant learning process. Mistakes in coordination could be fatal if they occur during a crisis. Your first real test as partners comes sooner than expected. A group of territorial fish from a distant part of the reef decides to challenge your combined influence. They're not particularly large or skilled individually, but they're numerous and well coordinated. Their strategy is simple: overwhelm your defenses through sheer numbers and persistence. The attack begins at dawn, with the challengers approaching from multiple directions simultaneously. It's a sophisticated assault that shows considerable planning and coordination. Under normal circumstances, you might have been forced to retreat deeper into your fortress and wait for the attackers to lose interest. But these aren't normal circumstances. The female's response to the crisis is immediate and perfectly coordinated with your own defensive plans. Without any apparent communication, you both implement a strategy that turns your individual territories into a unified defensive system. Your concrete fortress becomes a strong point, while her rocky domain provides mobile striking positions. The battle that follows showcases the advantages of strategic partnership. While you engage the main assault force at your fortress, she strikes at their flanks and rear, disrupting their coordination and forcing them to fight on multiple fronts. The attackers quickly discover that they're not facing two separate territorial fish. They're confronting a unified defense system. Your combined tactics prove devastatingly effective. The attackers' numerical advantage becomes meaningless when they can't coordinate their efforts. They're constantly responding to threats from unexpected directions, never able to establish the sustained pressure needed to overwhelm your defenses. Within hours, their organized assault has degenerated into confused retreat. The victory establishes your partnership as a force to be reckoned with on the reef. Fish that might have considered individual challenges against either of you think twice about facing your combined capabilities. Your territories become more secure, not just through better defenses, but through the deterrent effect of your demonstrated cooperation. News of your successful partnership spreads throughout the reef community, carried by the constant flow of information that connects all parts of these waters. Other fish begin adjusting their behavior to account for this new reality. Some seek to establish friendly relations with your partnership, while others begin forming their own alliances in response to your combined influence. The reef's political landscape is evolving, with your partnership serving as a catalyst for broader changes in how fish interact and organize themselves. Traditional territorial boundaries become less important as cooperative relationships create new power structures. You've inadvertently triggered a shift toward more sophisticated social organization. Your cleaner reports that several other species are attempting to form their own partnerships, though with limited success. Cooperation requires intelligence, communication skills, and the ability to suppress immediate territorial instincts in favor of long-term strategic thinking. Most fish simply don't possess the mental capabilities needed for sustained partnership, but your species does, and that realization opens possibilities you're only beginning to explore. The female brings news from her information networks about other fringehead partnerships in distant parts of the ocean. Apparently, your cooperation isn't unique. It's part of a broader pattern of behavior that defines your species at its most sophisticated level. This knowledge changes your perspective on everything you've accomplished. Your individual success wasn't just about personal survival and territorial dominance. It was preparation for something more complex, participation in the social structures that allow your species to thrive in the ocean's most competitive environments. You've evolved beyond simple predation into something approaching civilization. The partnership continues to develop as you and the female learn to coordinate your activities more effectively. Hunting becomes a joint enterprise, with both of you contributing to shared success. Territorial defense evolves into a unified system that protects both domains while maximizing your combined influence. Even routine maintenance becomes more efficient through cooperation. But perhaps the most significant change is in your thinking. Working with another strategic mind forces you to consider perspectives and possibilities you would never have discovered alone. The female's insights complement your own, creating a combined intelligence that exceeds what either of you could achieve individually. You're becoming more than the sum of your parts. The reef community continues to adapt to your partnership's growing influence. Smaller fish seek your protection, offering services in exchange for security. Larger predators give your combined territories respectful distance, recognizing that challenging your partnership would require more effort than most territorial conquests are worth. You've achieved a form of stability that seemed impossible when you were fighting alone. Your success attracts attention from unexpected quarters. Other partnerships begin forming throughout the reef, inspired by your example, but lacking your species' natural aptitude for cooperation. Some succeed in establishing basic alliances, while others collapse under the pressure of competing instincts. The reef is becoming a more complex place, with new forms of organization emerging constantly. But change also brings new threats. As partnerships and alliances reshape the reef's power structure, some fish find their traditional advantages diminished. A few respond by forming their own cooperative arrangements, but others resort to more aggressive tactics, seeking to destroy the partnerships that threaten their dominance. The most serious challenge comes from an unexpected source, a coalition of large, solitary predators who see partnerships as a threat to the natural order. They're not interested in forming their own alliances. They want to eliminate the cooperative arrangements that are changing the reef's social dynamics. Their campaign begins with targeted attacks on smaller partnerships, testing strategies and tactics for eventual use against more significant targets. You and the female recognize the threat early, thanks to your extensive information networks. The attacks on other partnerships aren't random violence. They're part of a coordinated campaign designed to restore the old order of individual territorial competition. Your success has made you the primary target of this counter-revolution. The coalition's strategy is sophisticated, involving psychological warfare, economic pressure, and direct military action. They begin by disrupting your information networks, eliminating the cleaner fish and other neutral parties who facilitate communication across territorial boundaries. Then they target your food sources, driving away prey species and contaminating hunting grounds. The pressure builds gradually, designed to strain your partnership without triggering immediate retaliation. The coalition understands that partnerships depend on cooperation and communication. Disrupt those elements, and even the strongest alliance will begin to fracture. They're playing a long game, betting that sustained pressure will eventually force you and the female to abandon your cooperative arrangement. Your response requires all the strategic thinking you've developed over your lifetime. This isn't a simple territorial dispute that can be resolved through superior tactics or better positioning. You're facing an existential threat to everything you've built, and conventional responses won't be adequate. You need to think beyond individual survival and consider the broader implications of this conflict. The female proves invaluable during this crisis, her different perspective providing insights that complement your own strategic analysis. Together, you develop a response that goes beyond simple defense. You decide to take the fight to your enemies, disrupting their operations before they can fully implement their campaign against partnerships. Your counterattack begins with intelligence gathering, using your remaining information sources to map the coalition's structure and identify key vulnerabilities. The Predator's alliance is less sophisticated than your partnership, held together primarily by shared interest rather than genuine cooperation. That gives you opportunities to exploit divisions and create internal conflicts. The campaign that follows tests everything you've learned about strategy, tactics, and cooperation. You're not just fighting for your territory anymore. You're fighting for a new way of life that you've helped create. The outcome will determine whether the reef's future belongs to solitary competitors or cooperative partners. But that's a story for another phase of your existence, as your life continues to evolve in ways you never could have imagined when you first broke free from your egg in that rocky crevice. The journey from helpless larva to strategic partner has been extraordinary, but it's far from over. Greater challenges and opportunities await in the complex waters of your ocean home. Your intelligence network proves more valuable than anticipated. The coalition's weakness becomes clear through careful observation. They're not truly unified. Each predator joined for personal reasons, seeking to eliminate specific threats to their individual dominance. Their cooperation is shallow, based on convenience rather than genuine strategic thinking. You and the female exploit this fundamental flaw ruthlessly. Instead of confronting the coalition directly, you begin manipulating their internal dynamics. A well-timed territorial provocation here, a strategic prey theft there, and soon the predators are questioning each other's motives. Their alliance starts fracturing under the pressure of their own competing interests. The breakthrough comes when two of the largest coalition members turn on each other over a disputed hunting ground. You and the female orchestrate the conflict beautifully, creating a situation where both predators believe the other is betraying the alliance. The resulting battle eliminates two major threats while demonstrating to the remaining coalition members that their partnership is fundamentally unstable. Within weeks, the coalition collapses completely. The surviving predators retreat to their individual territories, their campaign against partnerships abandoned in favor of protecting their own domains. Your victory isn't just tactical, it's philosophical. You've proven that intelligent cooperation can overcome brute force, even when the odds seem impossible. The reef's response to your success is immediate and profound. Partnerships that had been struggling under coalition pressure suddenly flourish. New alliances form as fish recognize that cooperation offers better survival prospects than solitary competition. You've catalyzed a permanent shift in how the reef community organizes itself. Your own partnership deepens as a result of the shared victory. The crisis forced you and the female to coordinate at levels you hadn't previously achieved, creating bonds that extend beyond simple territorial cooperation. You've become a true team, each anticipating the other's needs and responses with uncanny accuracy. But success brings unexpected complications. Your victory over the coalition has established you as leaders in the reef's new cooperative order. Other partnerships look to you for guidance and protection. Smaller fish seek membership in your alliance. Even neutral parties, like cleaner fish, begin treating you with the deference usually reserved for apex predators. The responsibility is overwhelming. You never intended to become a political leader, but that's exactly what's happened. Every decision you make affects not just your own territory, but the entire network of partnerships and alliances that have formed in response to your example. The weight of that influence changes how you think about every action. Your territory expands naturally as other fish seek your protection. What was once a modest domain centered on your concrete fortress becomes a sprawling network of allied territories, each contributing to a collective defense system. The logistics of managing such a large area require constant attention and strategic planning. The female takes charge of intelligence operations, coordinating the information networks that keep your alliance informed about threats and opportunities. Her natural talent for reading other fish's intentions makes her perfectly suited for this role. You focus on strategic planning and territorial defense, using your fortress as a command center for the growing alliance. Your first major test as alliance leaders comes from an unexpected direction. A massive storm system approaches the reef, bringing currents and conditions that will reshape the entire underwater landscape. Traditional territorial boundaries become meaningless when the environment itself is changing. Fish that have lived in the same areas for years suddenly find their homes uninhabitable. The crisis requires coordination on a scale never before attempted. Refugee fish need temporary shelter while they search for new territories. Food sources are disrupted, forcing major changes in hunting patterns. Most challenging of all, the stress of displacement triggers aggressive behavior in normally peaceful species. Your alliance's response becomes a masterclass in crisis management. Using your network of partnerships, you coordinate the largest refugee operation in reef history. Temporary territories are established in areas previously considered marginal. Food sharing arrangements ensure that no alliance member goes hungry despite the disrupted hunting grounds. The storm itself is terrifying. Currents that normally move at manageable speeds become torrents that can sweep away unwary fish. Debris from the surface world crashes through the water, creating new hazards and destroying familiar landmarks. Your concrete fortress proves its worth, providing shelter for dozens of displaced fish during the worst of the weather. When the storm finally passes, the reef is transformed. New rock formations have emerged while others have been buried. Current patterns have shifted, creating different hunting grounds and migration routes. Some territories have been completely obliterated, while new opportunities have appeared in previously inaccessible areas. The post-storm reconstruction period tests your leadership skills in ways you never anticipated. Alliance members compete for the best new territories, threatening the cooperative spirit that holds your network together. Some fish want to abandon their temporary arrangements and claim permanent stakes in the most desirable locations. You and the female work tirelessly to mediate disputes and maintain alliance cohesion. The solutions you develop become templates for reef-wide cooperation, territorial assignments based on need rather than strength, resource-sharing arrangements that ensure equitable distribution of food sources, conflict resolution mechanisms that prevent minor disputes from escalating into alliance-threatening wars. Your success in managing the post-storm reconstruction establishes your alliance as the reef's de facto government. Fish throughout the area look to you for leadership in resolving territorial disputes, organizing collective defense against predators, and coordinating responses to environmental challenges. You've accidentally created something approaching a civilization. The transformation of your role from territorial predator to political leader requires completely new skills. You must learn to think beyond immediate survival and consider the long-term welfare of hundreds of fish. Every decision creates precedents that will influence future conflicts. Your reputation for strategic thinking becomes a diplomatic tool as valuable as your impressive mouth. Trade relationships develop within your alliance as fish specialize in different types of resource gathering. Some become expert hunters of specific prey species. Others focus on gathering materials for territorial construction. A few develop skills in information gathering and communication. The division of labor increases efficiency while strengthening the bonds that hold your alliance together. Your cleaner friend becomes invaluable during this period, serving as your personal diplomat and information coordinator. Its neutral status allows it to move freely between alliance territories, carrying messages and gathering intelligence. The little fish that once seemed insignificant has become one of your most trusted advisors. But growth brings new challenges. Your alliance's success attracts attention from distant parts of the ocean. Fish from other reef systems arrive seeking membership or attempting to establish competing alliances. Some come peacefully, offering valuable skills and resources. Others arrive with hostile intentions, viewing your success as a threat to their own dominance. The most significant challenge comes from a group of highly organized predators from deeper waters. They're not interested in joining your alliance or establishing peaceful coexistence. They want to destroy what you've built and claim the reef's resources for themselves. Unlike the previous coalition, these newcomers are genuinely unified, sharing a common culture and strategic doctrine. The invasion begins subtly, with advanced scouts infiltrating your territories and gathering intelligence about your defenses. These aren't random predators looking for easy meals. They're military specialists conducting reconnaissance for a planned conquest. Your information networks detect their presence, but their discipline and coordination make them difficult to counter. Your response requires mobilizing resources on an unprecedented scale. The alliance that grew organically from partnerships and mutual aid must transform into a military organization capable of defending against coordinated attack. The transition tests every relationship and agreement you've carefully constructed over months of cooperation. The female proves invaluable during the military preparations, her intelligence networks providing crucial information about enemy capabilities and intentions. Together, you develop defensive strategies that leverage your alliance's greatest strength, the ability to coordinate actions across multiple territories and species. The first battles are probing attacks designed to test your defenses and identify weaknesses. The invaders strike at isolated outposts, seeking to eliminate your forward observation points and disrupt communication networks. Your response demonstrates the alliance's evolution from loose cooperation to disciplined military coordination. Each skirmish teaches you more about your enemy's capabilities and limitations. They're formidable fighters with superior individual skills, but they lack your alliance's flexibility and adaptability. Their rigid command structure makes them predictable, while your decentralized decision-making allows for rapid tactical adjustments. The war escalates gradually as both sides commit more resources to the conflict. Your alliance's response reveals capabilities that surprise even your closest allies. Fish that joined seeking protection discover they're part of a sophisticated military organization capable of projecting power across vast areas of the reef. Your concrete fortress becomes the headquarters for a conflict that spans multiple reef systems. Intelligence reports flow in constantly, tactical plans are developed and modified based on changing conditions, and diplomatic messages are sent to potential allies in distant waters. You've become a wartime leader, managing resources and personnel on a scale that would have been unimaginable during your early territorial struggles. The female coordinates the Alliance's intelligence operations with increasing sophistication. Her networks extend far beyond your immediate area, providing early warning of enemy movements and identifying opportunities for strategic advantage. The shy fish that once maintained a modest territory has become a spy master whose influence extends across vast areas of ocean. Your personal evolution mirrors the Alliance's growth. The simple territorial predator has become a strategic leader capable of managing complex military and political operations. Your mouth remains an impressive weapon, but your mind has become the tool that truly defines your success. Intelligence, not intimidation, has become your primary advantage. The war's outcome will determine not just your Alliance's survival, but the future of cooperative organization throughout the reef system. You're fighting for more than territory. You're defending a new way of life that offers alternatives to the endless cycle of individual competition and predation that has traditionally governed these waters. The decisive battles are approaching, and with them will come tests of everything you've learned about leadership, strategy, and the power of cooperation. Your journey from helpless larva to Alliance Commander has prepared you for this moment, but the challenges ahead will require capabilities you're still discovering. The reef watches and waits as two fundamentally different approaches to survival prepare for final confrontation. Your Alliance represents cooperation, intelligence, and adaptive strategy. Your enemies embody traditional predation, individual dominance, and rigid hierarchy. The victor will shape the reef's future for generations to come. But regardless of the war's outcome, you've already achieved something remarkable. The frightened juvenile that once hid in a beer bottle has become a leader whose influence extends across vast areas of ocean. Your story has evolved from simple survival into something approaching legend, inspiring others to seek cooperation over competition. The battles ahead will test every skill you've developed and every alliance you've forged. Victory is not guaranteed, but the transformation you've undergone ensures that whatever happens, your impact on the reef's social evolution will be permanent. You've proven that intelligence and cooperation can challenge even the most established forms of dominance. Your cleaner brings reports that fish in distant reef systems are forming their own alliances, inspired by stories of your success. The cooperative revolution you accidentally started is spreading beyond your immediate area, creating networks of mutual support that span vast areas of ocean. Win or lose, you've changed how fish think about survival and success. As you prepare for the final phase of the conflict, you reflect on the extraordinary journey that brought you to this moment. Every challenge overcome, every alliance forged, every victory achieved has contributed to your evolution from individual predator to transformational leader. The reef will never be the same, regardless of what tomorrow brings. The war continues, but your story has already transcended simple survival. You've discovered that your species' greatest strength isn't the impressive mouth that defines your appearance. It's the intelligence that allows for cooperation, strategy, and the creation of something larger than individual success. That realization will guide you through whatever challenges lie ahead. The intelligence reports flowing into your fortress paint a grim picture. The invaders aren't just attacking your alliance, they're systematically dismantling the cooperative networks that have spread across multiple reef systems. Every partnership they destroy sends a message. The old ways of individual dominance will be restored, no matter the cost. Your war council meets in the deepest chamber of your concrete stronghold. The female shares intelligence from her far-reaching networks, while representatives from allied territories report on defensive preparations. The diversity of species gathered around you would have been unthinkable just months ago. Predators and prey sitting side by side, united by shared commitment to cooperative survival. The enemy's strategy becomes clear through accumulated reports. They're not trying to conquer your territories directly. Instead, they're targeting the communication networks and trade relationships that hold your alliance together. Destroy the connections, and even the strongest partnerships will wither into isolated, vulnerable targets. Your response requires thinking beyond traditional military tactics. This isn't just about winning battles, it's about preserving the social structures that make your alliance possible. You begin implementing redundant communication systems, backup supply networks, and emergency protocols designed to maintain cooperation even under sustained attack. The female's intelligence operations adapt to counter the enemy's disruption campaigns. Her agents learn to operate independently when communication breaks down, following pre-established protocols that maintain coordination without constant direction. The flexibility that defines your alliance becomes its greatest defensive asset. Your first major counterattack targets the invader's rigid command structure. While they've been disrupting your networks, you've been studying their organization, identifying key leaders and communication nodes. The strike you launch isn't designed to inflict maximum casualties. It's calculated to create confusion and doubt within their ranks. The operation succeeds beyond your expectations. By eliminating several mid-level commanders simultaneously, you create gaps in their chain of command that their rigid system can't quickly fill. Lower-ranking invaders find themselves without clear orders, while senior leaders struggle to maintain control over increasingly chaotic operations. But your enemies adapt faster than anticipated. Within days, they've restructured their command system to eliminate the vulnerabilities you exploited. More concerning, they've begun targeting your alliance's civilian population, the non-combatant fish whose support makes your military operations possible. The attacks on civilians force a fundamental shift in your strategy. Resources that were devoted to offensive operations must be redirected to protection duties. Your alliance's greatest strength, its inclusion of multiple species and skill sets, becomes a liability when every member requires active defense. The female proposes a solution that initially seems impossible. Evacuate the entire civilian population to secure rear areas while the military forces conduct a mobile defense campaign. The logistics are staggering, but the alternative is watching your alliance's foundation erode under constant pressure. The evacuation operation becomes the largest coordinated movement in reef history. Thousands of fish must be relocated to temporary refuges while maintaining the supply lines that keep your military forces operational. Every aspect requires precise timing and flawless execution. One mistake could doom the entire enterprise. Your concrete fortress serves as the evacuation's command center, with fish flowing through its chambers in carefully orchestrated waves. The structure that began as personal shelter has become the nerve center for an operation spanning multiple reef systems. You coordinate movements while the female manages the intelligence networks that make such complex logistics possible. The invaders respond to your evacuation by intensifying their attacks, trying to disrupt the operation before it can be completed. Their strikes target the most vulnerable groups: elderly fish, juveniles, and species with limited mobility. The attacks are calculated to create panic and break down the disciplined movement patterns essential to evacuation success. Your forces respond with desperate fury, throwing themselves into defensive actions that border on suicidal. Fish that joined your alliance seeking protection find themselves fighting for the survival of creatures they barely know. The bonds forged through months of cooperation prove stronger than the fear of death. The evacuation's success comes at enormous cost. Many of your best fighters are killed or wounded defending the civilian columns. Key leaders are lost, leaving gaps in your command structure that weaken overall effectiveness. The alliance that emerges from the operation is smaller but more tightly bonded by shared sacrifice. With civilians safely relocated, your military forces can finally implement the mobile defense strategy that plays to your alliance's strengths. Instead of defending fixed positions, you begin a campaign of hit-and-run attacks designed to exhaust the invaders while avoiding decisive confrontations. The new strategy requires abandoning your beloved concrete fortress. The structure that served as your home and headquarters for so long must be sacrificed to maintain operational flexibility. You swim away from it for the last time, knowing you may never return to the place where your transformation from territorial predator to alliance leader began. Your mobile forces prove devastatingly effective against enemies accustomed to conventional territorial warfare. The invaders' attempts to occupy fixed positions leave them vulnerable to attacks from unexpected directions. Their superior individual combat skills become meaningless when they can't predict where or when the next assault will come. The female's intelligence networks adapt to support mobile operations, providing real-time information about enemy movements and weaknesses. Her agents operate independently across vast areas, coordinating strikes and identifying opportunities for tactical advantage. The shy fish who once maintained a modest territory has become the Alliance's most valuable strategic asset. Months of mobile warfare gradually shift the conflict's momentum. The invaders' initial advantages in organization and combat effectiveness prove less decisive than anticipated. Your Alliance's adaptability and local knowledge create opportunities that rigid military doctrine can't counter. The turning point comes when your forces successfully isolate and destroy the invaders' main supply base. The operation requires perfect coordination between multiple strike groups, each attacking different targets simultaneously to prevent enemy reinforcement. The victory demonstrates your alliance's evolution into a sophisticated military organization. Cut off from their supply lines, the invading forces begin experiencing the same logistical problems that once plagued your alliance. Their rigid command structure, optimized for coordinated advance, proves poorly suited for defensive operations in unfamiliar territory. Discipline breaks down as individual units struggle to maintain effectiveness without adequate support. Your counteroffensive begins with systematic attacks on isolated enemy positions. The same tactics the invaders used to disrupt your alliance are turned against them with devastating effect. Their communication networks are severed, supply lines are interdicted, and command posts are eliminated through precisely coordinated strikes. The female coordinates intelligence operations that provide detailed information about enemy capabilities and morale. Her reports indicate growing dissatisfaction within invader ranks as casualties mount and strategic objectives remain unachieved. The unified force that seemed so formidable is beginning to fracture under sustained pressure. Your alliance's civilian population begins returning to reclaimed territories, restoring the support networks that make large-scale military operations possible. The evacuation that seemed like desperate retreat proves to have been strategic withdrawal, preserving resources for the decisive phase of the conflict. But victory comes with unexpected complications. The retreating invaders don't simply withdraw to their original territories. Instead, they begin targeting the cooperative networks that have spread to other reef systems, attempting to prevent your alliance's model from inspiring further resistance to traditional predator dominance. The conflict evolves from territorial war into ideological struggle spanning vast areas of ocean. Your alliance finds itself defending not just its own territories, but the entire concept of cooperative survival against forces determined to restore individual competition as the only acceptable social organization. The scope of the struggle requires capabilities your alliance has never developed. Diplomatic missions must be sent to distant reef systems, seeking allies and coordinating resistance efforts. Military advisors are dispatched to help other cooperative networks defend themselves. Your local alliance becomes the nucleus of a movement that spans multiple ocean regions. Your personal transformation mirrors the alliance's expanding scope. The territorial predator who once fought for a single concrete fortress now coordinates operations across vast areas of ocean. Your reputation extends far beyond your original reef, inspiring cooperative movements in waters you've never seen. The female manages intelligence operations that span multiple ocean basins, coordinating information flows between allied networks and identifying opportunities for strategic cooperation. Her influence extends to reef systems thousands of miles from your original territory, making her one of the most powerful figures in the emerging cooperative movement. Your original cleaner friend becomes your personal ambassador, carrying messages between allied leaders and negotiating agreements that bind distant reef systems into mutual defense pacts. The tiny fish that once seemed insignificant has become a diplomatic figure whose influence rivals that of traditional apex predators. The war's conclusion comes not through decisive battle, but through gradual erosion of enemy capabilities and morale. Faced with sustained resistance across multiple fronts, the invading forces eventually abandon their campaign to restore individual dominance. Some retreat to their original territories, while others are absorbed into the cooperative networks they once sought to destroy. Your alliance emerges from the conflict fundamentally transformed. What began as local partnerships for mutual defense has evolved into a civilization spanning vast areas of ocean. The social structures you helped create have proven their worth against the most serious challenges, establishing cooperation as a viable alternative to predatory competition. The post-war reconstruction period requires skills you're still developing. Territories must be rebuilt, populations relocated, and economic relationships restored. The logistics of managing such vast areas while maintaining the cooperative principles that define your alliance create challenges that test every lesson learned during the conflict. Your concrete fortress, abandoned during the mobile defense campaign, becomes a symbol of transformation rather than a functional headquarters. The structure remains important for its historical significance, but your operations now require facilities capable of coordinating activities across multiple ocean regions. The female establishes a new intelligence headquarters in a location chosen for its communication advantages rather than defensive strength. Her networks now extend across vast areas of ocean, providing early warning of threats and identifying opportunities for expanding cooperative relationships. Your role continues evolving as the Alliance's scope expands. Direct military leadership gives way to strategic oversight and diplomatic coordination. You find yourself managing relationships between allied networks while planning for challenges that haven't yet materialized. The cooperative movement's success attracts attention from unexpected sources. Traditional apex predators who once dismissed partnerships as weakness begin seeking accommodation with the new order. Some offer their individual capabilities in exchange for alliance protection, while others attempt to establish their own cooperative arrangements. Your alliance's response to these overtures requires careful consideration of long-term consequences. Accepting former enemies as members risks diluting the cooperative principles that define your organization. Rejecting them entirely might create new conflicts, just as the old ones are being resolved. The decisions you make during this period establish precedents that will guide the Alliance's development for generations. Every choice about membership, territorial arrangements, and resource allocation becomes part of the foundation for whatever civilization emerges from the cooperative experiment you accidentally started. Your personal legacy is already secure, regardless of future developments. The frightened larva, who once drifted helplessly in the plankton, has become a transformational leader whose influence extends across vast areas of ocean. The reef systems that once seemed impossibly large and dangerous have become the foundation for something approaching utopia. But your story continues beyond individual achievement. The cooperative networks you helped establish are evolving in directions you never anticipated, developing capabilities and characteristics that exceed anything you originally envisioned. Your creation is becoming something greater than its creator. The reef watches and waits as the next phase of evolution begins. Traditional boundaries between predator and prey, individual and community, survival and civilization blur as new forms of organization emerge. You've triggered changes that will reshape ocean society for countless generations. Your mouth remains as impressive as ever, still capable of intimidating potential challengers and deterring casual aggression. But your mind has become the tool that truly defines your impact, creating possibilities that transcend anything achievable through individual prowess alone. The Alliance continues growing, attracting new members and expanding into previously unexplored territories. Each success validates the cooperative principles you've championed, while each challenge provides opportunities to refine and strengthen the social structures that make such cooperation possible. Your transformation from territorial predator to civilizational founder represents something unprecedented in ocean history. The implications of your achievement extend far beyond personal success, offering proof that intelligence and cooperation can triumph over the most entrenched forms of dominance and competition. The future remains unwritten, filled with possibilities that seemed impossible when you first emerged from your egg in that rocky crevice. Your journey has taken you from individual survival to species leadership to something approaching statesmanship. The next chapter promises challenges and opportunities that will test everything you've learned about leadership, cooperation, and the power of unified action. But whatever comes next, your impact on ocean civilization is already permanent. The cooperative networks spreading across multiple reef systems carry your influence far beyond your physical presence. You've become more than an individual success story. You've become the catalyst for a transformation that will reshape how fish think about survival, success, and the possibilities of working together rather than competing alone. The victory over the invaders marks the beginning of your most complex challenge yet. Managing a cooperative network spanning multiple reef systems requires skills no fish has ever needed before. You find yourself dealing with problems that have no precedent. How do you maintain unity among species that have been enemies for millions of years? How do you coordinate resource distribution across territories you've never even visited? Your daily routine becomes a constant stream of decisions that affect thousands of lives. Territorial disputes between allied settlements require diplomatic solutions that satisfy all parties. Trade disagreements threaten to fracture relationships that took months to establish. Even simple questions about hunting boundaries become political issues when multiple species with different needs try to share the same waters. The female proves invaluable during these administrative challenges. Her intelligence networks have evolved into something resembling a government communication system, carrying policy decisions and status reports across vast distances. She's become more than your partner. She's the operational backbone of everything you've built. Your original cleaner friend returns from a diplomatic mission with disturbing news. The cooperative networks have grown so large that some members feel disconnected from the central leadership. Fish in distant territories are making decisions without consulting the Alliance command, claiming they know their local conditions better than administrators operating from far away. This decentralization creates both opportunities and risks. Local autonomy allows for faster responses to immediate threats and more efficient resource management, but it also weakens the unified command structure that made your alliance successful during the war. You're facing the classic challenge of any growing organization: how to maintain effectiveness while managing expansion. Your solution involves creating regional command centers, each responsible for coordinating alliance activities within their local area. It's a risky strategy that could fragment your unified organization, but the alternative is micromanaging operations across territories too vast for effective centralized control. The female takes charge of establishing these regional centers, using her intelligence networks to identify capable leaders and suitable locations. Her recommendations surprise you. Many of the fish she selects are former enemies who proved their worth during the recent conflict. Their experience with both competition and cooperation makes them ideal candidates for managing complex territorial relationships. The transition to regional governance proceeds more smoothly than anticipated. Local commanders prove surprisingly effective at managing their areas while maintaining loyalty to alliance principles. Communication between regions improves as commanders develop their own networks and protocols. Your centralized organization is evolving into something more sophisticated and resilient. But success brings new types of challenges. The Alliance's growing prosperity attracts attention from predators who lack the intelligence for cooperation but possess the strength for conquest. These aren't organized military forces like the recent invaders. They're individual apex predators who see your territories as rich hunting grounds protected by inferior opponents. The first attack comes without warning. A massive shark enters one of your outer territories, ignoring all diplomatic protocols and threat displays. Your local defenders respond according to Alliance doctrine, coordinating their efforts to drive off the intruder, but their opponent isn't interested in territorial negotiation. It simply wants to eat as many Alliance members as possible before moving on. The battle that follows demonstrates both the strengths and limitations of cooperative defense. Your forces coordinate brilliantly, using tactics that would devastate any organized enemy. But the shark isn't fighting tactically, it's hunting, using raw power and speed to overwhelm defensive positions before coordination can take effect. Casualties mount quickly as your defenders struggle to adapt their tactics to an opponent that ignores conventional rules of engagement. The shark's attacks are unpredictable, targeting both military and civilian populations without distinction. Traditional defensive strategies prove inadequate against an enemy that treats warfare as an extended feeding session. Your response requires mobilizing resources from across the Alliance network. Regional commanders coordinate reinforcements, while intelligence networks track the shark's movements and predict its next targets. The female oversees the operation from your headquarters, managing information flows that span multiple reef systems. The breakthrough comes when one of your regional commanders develops a new tactical approach. Instead of trying to drive off the shark Through coordinated attacks, Alliance forces begin herding it toward predetermined locations where the terrain favors defenders. The strategy requires perfect timing and enormous risk, but it offers the possibility of actually defeating rather than just discouraging the threat. The final confrontation takes place in a narrow canyon where the shark's size and speed become liabilities rather than advantages. Your forces attack from multiple directions simultaneously, using the confined space to prevent the predator from escaping or maneuvering effectively. The battle is brutal, with heavy casualties on both sides, but your tactical innovation proves decisive. The shark's defeat sends shockwaves through the ocean's predator community. Word spreads that the Alliance isn't just capable of defending against organized military forces, it can actually kill apex predators through coordinated action. The psychological impact is enormous, forcing solitary hunters to reconsider their assumptions about cooperative networks. Your Alliance's reputation undergoes another transformation. You're no longer seen as just another territorial organization or even a successful military force. You've become something unprecedented, a coalition capable of challenging the ocean's most fundamental power structures. Individual strength, no matter how impressive, can be overcome by intelligent cooperation, but the victory's aftermath reveals new complexities. The shark's death creates a power vacuum in the surrounding waters, triggering territorial disputes among smaller predators seeking to claim the vacant hunting grounds. Your Alliance finds itself managing conflicts that have nothing to do with your original cooperative principles. Some Alliance members argue for expanding into the vacant territory, claiming it as a reward for their sacrifices in defeating the shark. Others insist that territorial expansion violates the defensive principles that define your organization. The debate threatens to fracture the unity that made victory possible in the first place. Your decision establishes another precedent that will shape the Alliance's future development. Instead of claiming the territory directly, you propose establishing it as a neutral zone, managed jointly by all neighboring regions. It's a compromise that satisfies no one completely, but maintains Alliance unity while addressing legitimate security concerns. The neutral zone experiment becomes a testing ground for new forms of cooperative governance. Fish from different regions work together to manage resources and resolve disputes without central direction. The system isn't perfect, but it demonstrates possibilities for cooperation that extend beyond military necessity. Your role continues evolving as the Alliance develops greater sophistication. Direct leadership gives way to policy guidance and strategic oversight. You find yourself focusing more on long-term planning and less on day-to-day operational decisions. The organization you created is becoming capable of functioning independently of its founders. The female's responsibilities expand correspondingly. Her intelligence networks have evolved into a communication system that facilitates cooperation across vast areas of ocean. She's become the Alliance's primary information coordinator, managing data flows that make large-scale coordination possible. Your original concrete fortress undergoes another transformation, becoming a training center for Alliance leaders rather than an operational headquarters. Fish from across the network come to study the tactical innovations and cooperative principles that made your success possible. The humble bottle that once housed a desperate juvenile has become a pilgrimage destination for aspiring leaders. But your greatest challenge is yet to come. Reports arrive from the most distant Alliance territories describing something unprecedented. Other cooperative networks are beginning to make contact. Fish from completely different ocean regions have developed their own Alliance systems, inspired by stories of your success, but adapted to their unique local conditions. The implications are staggering. If multiple cooperative networks can establish communication and coordination, the possibilities for large-scale organization become virtually unlimited. You could be witnessing the birth of ocean-wide civilization, with cooperative principles replacing predatory competition as the dominant social organization. The female immediately begins planning for inter-network communication, identifying potential contact points, and developing protocols for diplomatic interaction. Her excitement is obvious. The intelligence systems she's developed could serve as the foundation for coordination between allied networks operating across vast distances. Your first diplomatic contact with another network occurs through a chance encounter between patrol groups operating near the boundary waters. The meeting is tense initially, with both sides uncertain about the other's intentions. But when communication is established, the similarities between your organizations become apparent. The foreign network has developed along different lines, emphasizing trade relationships and resource sharing rather than military cooperation. But their fundamental principles are recognizably similar to your own: intelligent cooperation producing results that exceed what individual competition could achieve. The philosophical foundation is identical, even if the practical implementation differs. Negotiations for formal cooperation between networks prove more complex than anticipated. Both organizations have developed their own protocols, traditions, and leadership structures. Finding common ground requires compromising on issues that seem fundamental to each network's identity. The breakthrough comes when you propose focusing on specific collaborative projects rather than attempting comprehensive integration. Joint research into new territorial management techniques, coordinated responses to environmental challenges, and shared intelligence about threats that affect both networks provide concrete benefits without requiring fundamental organizational changes. The first inter-network project involves coordinating responses to a massive algae bloom that threatens food sources across multiple reef systems. The scale of the problem exceeds what either network could handle independently, but joint action proves remarkably effective. Coordinated cleanup efforts and alternative food distribution prevent what could have been a catastrophic famine. Success in managing the algae crisis establishes the template for future inter-network cooperation. Joint task forces are created to address specific challenges, while both organizations maintain their independence for routine operations. It's a model that allows for coordination without requiring integration. Word of successful inter-network cooperation spreads throughout the ocean's communication networks. Other cooperative organizations begin seeking contact, hoping to establish their own collaborative relationships. Your alliance finds itself at the center of a growing web of connections that spans vast areas of ocean. The female coordinates these expanding diplomatic relationships while maintaining the intelligence systems that serve your original alliance. Her networks now extend across multiple ocean basins, facilitating communication between cooperative organizations that have never had direct contact. She's become something approaching an ocean-wide communications coordinator. Your personal evolution parallels the expanding scope of cooperative organization. The territorial predator who once fought for a single fortress now oversees relationships between networks that span continents. Your influence extends to waters you've never seen, affecting fish whose species you've never encountered. But expansion brings new categories of challenges. Managing relationships between networks with different cultural backgrounds and organizational structures requires diplomatic skills that no fish has ever needed. Simple misunderstandings can escalate into conflicts that threaten the entire cooperative movement. The most serious crisis emerges when two allied networks develop conflicting territorial claims in an area where their expansion zones overlap. Both organizations have legitimate historical connections to the disputed region, and both have members who consider the territory essential to their security. Traditional competitive approaches would resolve the dispute through warfare, but that option would destroy everything the cooperative movement represents. Your solution requires innovations in conflict resolution that have no precedent in ocean society. Instead of allowing the networks to negotiate directly, you propose establishing a neutral arbitration system staffed by representatives from uninvolved organizations. The arbitrators would evaluate both claims and propose solutions based on cooperative principles rather than competitive advantage. The arbitration process becomes a landmark in the development of internetwork cooperation. For the first time, cooperative organizations accept external authority in resolving internal disputes. The precedent establishes mechanisms for managing conflicts that could otherwise fragment the growing web of alliances. The territorial disputes resolution through arbitration rather than warfare demonstrates the maturity of the cooperative movement. What began as local partnerships for mutual defense has evolved into a sophisticated system of international relations based on negotiation rather than conquest. You've helped create something that approaches true civilization. Your role in these developments continues evolving as the scope of cooperation expands. Direct leadership of your original alliance gives way to elder statesmanship in the broader cooperative community. You find yourself consulted on major policy decisions while leaving operational management to younger, more energetic leaders. The female's influence expands correspondingly as her communication networks become essential infrastructure for the growing cooperative civilization. She's no longer just your partner or even the intelligence coordinator for a single alliance. She's become a key figure in ocean-wide cooperation, facilitating relationships between organizations across vast distances. Your transformation from individual predator to civilizational architect represents an achievement unprecedented in natural history. The desperate juvenile who once hid in a beer bottle has become one of the most influential figures in ocean society, catalyzing changes that will reshape marine civilization for countless generations. The cooperative networks continue expanding, incorporating new members and developing increasingly sophisticated organizational structures. Each success validates the principles you've championed, while each challenge provides opportunities to refine the mechanisms that make large-scale cooperation possible. Your legacy extends far beyond personal achievement, or even the success of your original alliance. The cooperative civilization emerging across the ocean carries your influence to places you'll never visit, affecting species you'll never encounter. You've become more than a successful leader. You've become a historical force whose impact will endure long after your individual story ends. But that story isn't over yet. The challenges and opportunities ahead will test everything you've learned about leadership, cooperation, and the possibilities of working together rather than competing alone. Your journey from helpless larva to civilizational founder has prepared you for whatever comes next, but the future promises developments that will exceed even your expanded imagination. The reef systems that once seemed impossibly vast and dangerous have become the foundation for something approaching utopia. The cooperative principles you helped establish are spreading across ocean basins, creating possibilities for peace and prosperity that seemed unimaginable when survival was your only concern. Your mouth remains impressive, still capable of intimidating opponents when necessary. But your true weapon has become the mind that conceived cooperation as an alternative to competition, the intelligence that saw possibilities beyond individual success, and the vision that imagined civilization where others saw only wilderness. The ocean watches and waits as the next chapter of your extraordinary story prepares to unfold. Whatever challenges lie ahead, your transformation from territorial predator to cooperative leader has already changed everything. The future belongs to the civilization you helped create, built on principles that prove intelligence and cooperation can triumph over even the most entrenched forms of individual dominance. The years pass differently now. Your body has reached its full size, your mouth a cavern that could swallow fish twice your original weight. But age brings changes that raw power cannot overcome. Your reflexes slow slightly, your stamina decreases, and the endless stream of young challengers never stops. Each season brings new faces eager to test themselves against the legendary Fringehead. Most are easily discouraged. Your reputation precedes you, and a single threat display usually sends ambitious juveniles swimming for safer waters. But occasionally, one arrives with the skills and determination to pose a real threat. These encounters force you to rely more on experience than raw ability, using tactical knowledge accumulated over years of conflict to overcome opponents who might have superior physical capabilities. Your partnership with the female deepens with time, becoming something beyond cooperation or even love. You anticipate each other's needs without communication, coordinate complex operations through subtle gestures, and share an understanding that transcends species boundaries. She compensates for your declining reflexes while you provide the strategic oversight that keeps your alliance functioning. The cooperative civilization you helped establish continues evolving in directions you never anticipated. New organizational structures emerge as networks grow beyond manageable sizes. Innovation in communication technology allows for coordination across previously impossible distances. Trade relationships develop between regions with completely different resource bases, creating prosperity that individual competition could never achieve. But success creates new forms of vulnerability. The civilization has grown dependent on systems that require constant maintenance and protection. Disruption of key communication networks could fragment entire regions. Failure of major trade relationships might trigger resource shortages that affect millions of fish. The complexity that enables cooperation also creates potential points of catastrophic failure. So your role shifts again as these systemic vulnerabilities become apparent. Instead of managing expansion and growth, you find yourself focused on resilience and sustainability. How do you maintain cooperative civilization when it becomes too large and complex for any individual or group to fully comprehend? How do you preserve the principles that made success possible while adapting to challenges that those principles never anticipated? The female coordinates efforts to build redundancy into critical systems, creating backup networks and alternative resource flows that could maintain basic cooperation even if primary systems failed. Her work requires understanding not just current operations, but potential failure modes that might not emerge for years or decades. Your original concrete fortress undergoes another transformation, becoming a research center where Alliance members study the long-term sustainability of cooperative systems. The questions being explored there have no precedent in natural history. How do you maintain unity among millions of individuals across vast distances? What happens when cooperative success becomes so complete that competition disappears entirely? Some of the research produces disturbing conclusions. Computer models suggest that cooperative systems might be inherently unstable over very long time periods, requiring constant innovation and adaptation to prevent stagnation. Other studies indicate that complete elimination of competition could lead to evolutionary weakness, making cooperative civilizations vulnerable to external threats they've never encountered. These findings force difficult policy decisions about the civilization's future development. Should expansion continue indefinitely, or should there be limits to prevent systems from becoming unmanageably complex? Should some level of internal competition be maintained to preserve evolutionary fitness? How do you plan for threats that might not emerge for generations? Your input on these questions carries enormous weight, given your role in establishing the cooperative principles that made civilization possible. But the decisions required exceed any individual's capability to fully comprehend. You find yourself advocating for distributed decision-making systems that can function without central authority, even as you recognize the risks such decentralization might create. The female supports this approach, using her communication networks to facilitate discussions among representatives from across the cooperative civilization. The conversations reveal both the strengths and limitations of the system you helped create. Unity of purpose remains strong, but practical implementation becomes increasingly difficult as scale and complexity grow. Your most significant contribution to these discussions isn't tactical expertise or strategic insight, it's historical perspective. You remember what life was like before cooperation, when every interaction was potentially deadly and success meant nothing more than individual survival. That memory provides context for evaluating proposed changes that might seem logical but could undermine the foundations of everything you've built. The debate continues across multiple seasons as the civilization grapples with questions that have no clear answers. Your age becomes an advantage in these discussions, as younger leaders lack the experience to fully appreciate the consequences of various policy options. The juvenile who once fought desperately for survival has become an elder whose wisdom guides decisions affecting millions of lives. But time catches up with everyone eventually. Your movements become more deliberate, your reactions slower, your endurance limited. The physical capabilities that once defined your success gradually diminish, leaving you increasingly dependent on mental assets and social relationships. Age is the one opponent that cannot be defeated through intelligence or cooperation. The female notices these changes before you're willing to acknowledge them. Her gentle adjustments to shared responsibilities spare your pride while compensating for your declining abilities. She takes on more of the physical demands of leadership while you focus on areas where experience matters more than raw capability. Your last major territorial challenge comes from an unexpected source, a group of juvenile fringeheads who formed their own cooperative alliance. They're not seeking to destroy what you've built. They want to prove they can do it better. Their challenge isn't about individual dominance, but generational change, the eternal cycle of youth replacing age. The confrontation forces you to confront your own mortality in ways you've never considered. These aren't random challengers seeking easy conquest. They're your intellectual heirs, fish who've learned from your example and believe they can improve upon it. Their critique of your methods is informed and sophisticated, identifying genuine weaknesses in systems you helped design. Your response requires wisdom rather than strength. Instead of meeting their challenge with traditional displays of dominance, you engage them in the kind of strategic dialogue that has become your specialty. The conversation that follows spans days, covering everything from tactical innovations to philosophical questions about the nature of cooperation. The juveniles present compelling arguments for reform and modernization. Some of their proposals would genuinely improve the civilization's effectiveness and sustainability, but their plans also involve changes that could undermine principles you consider essential to cooperative success. The discussion becomes a masterclass in balancing innovation with tradition. Your resolution surprises everyone, including yourself. Instead of rejecting the juvenile's challenge or accepting it unconditionally, you propose a gradual transition that incorporates their best ideas while preserving core principles. They would take increasing responsibility for operational leadership while you provide strategic oversight and historical perspective. The arrangement works better than anticipated. The juveniles bring energy and innovation that revitalizes systems that had begun showing signs of stagnation. You contribute experience and wisdom that prevent well-intentioned reforms from creating unintended consequences. The civilization benefits from both generational perspectives, but the transition also makes your mortality more apparent. Each responsibility transferred to younger leaders represents another step toward irrelevance. The organization you helped create is demonstrating its ability to function without your direct involvement, which is both gratifying and melancholy. The female experiences similar transitions as her communication networks are gradually taken over by younger fish with fresh perspectives and new ideas. Her influence remains enormous, but operational control is shifting to leaders who will shape the civilization's future development. The partnership that defined both your lives is evolving into something different but equally meaningful. Your daily routine changes as direct leadership responsibilities diminish. Instead of managing immediate crises and operational decisions, you find yourself focused on longer-term issues and broader philosophical questions. What legacy do you want to leave? How can the principles you've championed be preserved as the civilization continues evolving? The female pursues similar questions through her remaining networks, documenting the history of cooperative development and analyzing the factors that made success possible. Her work becomes a foundation for future leaders trying to understand how individual territorial predators evolved into architects of ocean-wide civilization. Your original cleaner friend, now ancient by fish standards, continues serving as your personal assistant and diplomatic representative. The tiny fish has become a living repository of cooperative history, having witnessed every major development from the earliest partnerships to the current civilizational complexity. Its memories provide invaluable context for understanding how various policies and decisions shaped the movement's development. But time affects everyone differently. Your cleaner's lifespan is much shorter than your own, and you watch your oldest ally gradually slow down and weaken. The fish that once darted energetically between territories now moves with careful deliberation, conserving energy for essential tasks. Its eventual death represents the end of an era and a reminder of your own mortality. The loss hits harder than you expected. The cleaner wasn't just a service provider or even a friend. It was a connection to your origins, a reminder of the desperate juvenile who once accepted help from anyone willing to provide it. Its death severs one of your last links to the early days of cooperative development. The female organizes a memorial ceremony that becomes something unprecedented in ocean society, a celebration of an individual life that contributed to collective success. Fish from across the civilization attend, sharing stories about the cleaner's diplomatic achievements and expressing gratitude for its service. The event establishes new traditions for honoring individuals whose contributions transcended personal success. Your own health becomes increasingly fragile as the seasons pass. The body that once seemed indestructible shows signs of cumulative wear from years of conflict and stress. Your movements become more careful, your activities more limited, your energy increasingly precious. The physical decline is gradual but inexorable. The female adapts her routines to accommodate your limitations, ensuring you remain involved in important decisions while protecting you from unnecessary strain. Her care is subtle and dignified, preserving your sense of purpose while acknowledging the realities of aging. The partnership that began with territorial cooperation has evolved into something approaching devotion. Your influence on the civilization's development continues even as your direct involvement decreases. Younger leaders seek your advice on major policy decisions, valuing your historical perspective and strategic insight. Your reputation ensures that your opinions carry weight in discussions about the civilization's future direction. But you're increasingly aware that your time is limited. The body that survived countless battles and challenges is finally showing signs of fundamental breakdown. Systems that functioned reliably for years are beginning to fail, creating cascading problems that no amount of medical attention can permanently resolve. Your response to declining health reflects the wisdom accumulated over a lifetime of challenges. Instead of raging against inevitable biological processes, you focus on completing the work that only you can accomplish. Final policy recommendations, strategic assessments for future challenges, and philosophical reflections on the nature of cooperation become your priority. The female coordinates these final projects while managing her own grief about your approaching death. Her work takes on increased urgency as she documents everything that might be lost when your unique perspective disappears. The intelligence networks that defined her career become tools for preserving your legacy. Your last major contribution to the civilization involves establishing institutions that can preserve cooperative principles across generational changes. The systems you design are intended to maintain continuity even when founding leaders are gone, ensuring that future developments remain consistent with the values that made success possible. The work requires confronting questions you've avoided throughout your career. What happens to cooperative civilization when its founders die? How do you institutionalize principles that emerged from personal relationships and individual vision? Can systems replace the charismatic leadership that created them in the first place? Your solutions involve creating multiple redundant institutions, each responsible for preserving different aspects of cooperative tradition. Educational systems will teach future leaders about the historical development of cooperation. Cultural institutions will maintain the values and principles that define civilizational identity. Political structures will ensure that decision-making processes remain consistent with cooperative ideals. The female implements these institutional designs through her remaining networks, coordinating with leaders across the civilization to establish the systems you've conceived. Her work ensures that your final vision will be preserved and implemented even after your death, providing continuity for the cooperative movement you helped create. Your last days are spent in the concrete fortress where your transformation from territorial predator to civilizational leader began. The structure has become a pilgrimage site for fish seeking to understand the origins of cooperative society, but it remains your personal refuge, the place where you feel most connected to your extraordinary journey. The female rarely leaves your side during this final period, providing companionship and comfort as your condition deteriorates. Your conversations cover everything from immediate concerns to grand philosophical questions about the meaning of existence and the nature of achievement. The partnership that shaped both your lives reaches its deepest expression in these quiet moments. Your death, when it comes, is peaceful rather than dramatic. The body that survived countless battles simply stops functioning, worn out by years of extraordinary achievement and service. You pass away in the fortress that symbolized your rise from individual predator to cooperative leader, surrounded by the partner who shared your greatest triumphs and challenges. The female ensures that your death is handled with the dignity appropriate to your historical significance. Memorial ceremonies are organized throughout the cooperative civilization, allowing millions of fish to express their gratitude for your contributions to their improved lives. The events establish precedents for honoring leaders whose achievements transcend personal success. But your true legacy isn't the ceremonies or monuments created in your honor. It's the civilization itself, the vast network of cooperative relationships that transformed ocean society from competitive predation into something approaching paradise. Millions of fish live better lives because of the principles you helped establish and the institutions you created to preserve them. The female continues her work after your death, using her networks to document your life and preserve your contributions for future generations. Her efforts ensure that your story becomes part of the civilization's foundational mythology, inspiring future leaders and providing guidance for challenges yet to come. Your journey from helpless larva to civilizational architect represents one of the most extraordinary transformations in natural history. The desperate juvenile who once hid in a beer bottle became a leader whose influence reshaped ocean society and established principles that will guide marine civilization for countless generations. You proved that intelligence and cooperation can triumph over even the most entrenched forms of individual competition. The reef systems that once seemed impossibly dangerous have become the foundation for a cooperative paradise that spans ocean basins. Fish that would have been enemies under the old competitive system now work together for mutual benefit, creating prosperity and security that individual achievement could never provide. Your vision of cooperation has become reality on a scale you never dared imagine. Your mouth, once your most fearsome weapon, became less important than your mind, the intelligence that conceived alternatives to competition, and the wisdom that guided their implementation. Physical prowess gave way to strategic thinking, individual dominance to collective achievement, territorial conquest to civilizational construction. The ocean remembers your story and will continue telling it long after your physical remains have returned to the ecosystem that nurtured your extraordinary life. Your transformation from sarcastic fringehead to cooperative visionary has become legend, inspiring others to seek possibilities beyond individual success and proving that even the most unlikely fish can change the world through intelligence, determination, and the courage to imagine something better. Your legacy lives on in every partnership formed, every territorial dispute resolved through negotiation rather than violence, every trade relationship that creates mutual prosperity instead of zero-sum competition. The civilization you helped create continues evolving, but it remains built on the foundation of cooperative principles you established through a lifetime of unprecedented achievement. This was your complete life as a sarcastic fringehead, from the vulnerable larva who emerged from an egg to the visionary leader whose death marked the end of an era, but not the end of your influence. You lived long enough to see your dreams become reality and your principles transform an entire ocean. Few creatures in the history of life have achieved so much or left such a lasting impact on their world. Here you can find the next story. Click on it. Until then, see you soon.